Welcome to this edition of SKNIS Week in Review. The Week in Review highlights the top stories of the work of the government of St. Kitts and Nevis for the past week. Here's a look at some of the highlights for the week of November 17th to 23rd. Education Sector Plan launched, Historic Day for Cruise Tourism, Men in St. Kitts and Nevis celebrated for contribution to society, and Prime Minister Harris impressed with the percentage of locals employed at Park Hyatt. I am your presenter, Sherima Matthew. The Ministry of Education is well on its way to revolutionize the teaching and learning landscape. Its highly anticipated Education Sector Plan 2017-2021 was launched on Friday, November 17th, with the aim of ensuring that all stakeholders are equipped to deliver the highest quality of education to young people and adult learners. The Education Sector Plan builds on the White Paper on Education Development and Policy 2009-2019 in order to provide a strategic roadmap for improvement in the provision and administration of education over the next 5 years.
I am indeed proud to state that the Ministry of Education is focused and is ensuring that policies are in place to improve education of all of our learners in the Federation. Education is dynamic and we have to keep abreast of the new changes. The Ministry of Education accepts this notion and therefore carefully developed a policy document with 3 major policy goals. The goals adopted new ideologies to educate all learners and is intended to ultimately secure a future of highly educated citizens who would contribute to sustainable development, build civic responsibility, and succeed locally and globally.
The 3 major goals include improving equitable access to participation in education at all levels, improving the quality and relevance of education with the specific focus of improving learning outcomes of learners, and enhancing governance and management practices to make the sector more efficient and effective in all of its operations. Friday, November 17th was an extraordinary day for cruise tourism in St. Kitts, as never before has the Federation seen 7 cruise ships docked on the same day, bringing with them in the vicinity of 10,000 visitors. Seabourn Odyssey was docked at Carambola Beach Club, TUI Discovery at the Deepwater Harbour, Adventure of the Seas and Celebrity Summit at Port Zante, Thompson Celebration and Windsurf at the Marina. Crystal Esprit was docked at the Marina from 7:30 a.m. to 12 noon, at Carambola Beach Club from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. and overnighted at Port Zante.
That's extremely good for this country. Additionally, it shows what the cruise season 2017-2018, which is just ahead of us, has to offer. It also shows you that in November alone, the month in which we are in, we're going to have 70 calls to port. In December, we're having over 115 calls in port. That translates to a lot. It translates in December alone to something in the region of $30 million pumped into the economy. We are extremely happy with what we're seeing in the cruise industry. But it hasn't come easy. It has come with a lot of hard work, a lot of diligence. And so I must thank the team, both at the Ministry of Tourism and the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, for pushing above their weight. And also for those who have been with me when we meet the cruise executive.
Minister Grant said that for December 25th and 26th, Christmas Day and Boxing Day respectively, 7 ships are expected to dock in St. Kitts on each day. He added that this is not an easy feat, but that his ministry has held consultations with different stakeholders, including the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, the St. Kitts Nevis Defence Force, St. Kitts and Nevis Fire and Rescue Services, the medical fraternity, and vendors to ensure that everyone is prepared to respond to all scenarios. The contribution of men, the sacrifices and progress they have made in their homes, communities, and society on a whole were recently recognized during the 2017 International Men's Day Award ceremony held at the Ocean Terrace Inn. The Department of Gender Affairs hosted the annual event under the theme Celebrating Men and Boys in All of Their Diversity. Dion Brown, Gender Field Officer, explained the theme further.
The theme for this year, Celebrating Men and Boys in All Their Diversity, is suggesting, and it is designed for us to focus on shared objectives which are applied equally to men and boys, irrespective of their age, ability, social background, ethnicity, sexuality, gender, identity, religious belief, and relationship status. As we strive to achieve gender equality as a nation, it is imperative that empowering men and boys be a part of the agenda.
Mr. Brown added that it is understood that the achievement of gender equality is not possible without the active involvement and support of men, and noted, and I quote, "Men must be reached and included so that intervention for women and girls are not derailed by male resistance," end of quote. The awardees were Dwight Berridge in the field of media, Hilton Clark in the field of education, Percy Daniel in law enforcement, Quinton Morton in religion, Lonzo A. Wilkinson in youth development and sports, Eustace Warner in creative and performing arts, and Floyd Henry in construction and architecture. More jobs were created in St. Kitts and Nevis, with 94% of the 320 permanent employees hired at the newly opened Park Hyatt St. Kitts Christopher Harbour being locals, a figure the country's Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, has lauded as remarkable, while underscoring that locals are already benefiting from the operations of the five-star luxury resort situated at Banana Bay on the Southeast Peninsula.
This is a clear indication of the deserving confidence that has been placed in the ability of our people to excel and to reach their God-given potential. Through the discussions I've had with Chiada, he had interest in ensuring that the core people coming out of our colleges were properly outfitted, if you will, with the skills, the attitudinal disposition to render excellent service. And I am sure that they will render to you excellent service as the need do. And you are right. This excellence of service we want to engender in all our people, in the government service, in the private sector, in the media even. And of course, that become the ethos, the enduring values by which the people of St. Kitts and Nevis become best known.
He said that the government remains committed to ensuring that locals are empowered, but added that they themselves must make that extra effort to market their products and grab at the opportunities available. The Honorable Lindsey Grant, Minister of Tourism, has echoed his delight and that of his ministry on the recent edition of American Airlines non-stop service to the Robert Llewellyn Bratcher International Airport.
American Airlines will now provide twice daily non-stop service to St. Kitts from Miami for the first time in our history for 5 days a week, up from 4. So that should be good news to you, Mohammed. Additionally, the flight will operate inbound Wednesday to Sunday and outbound Thursday to Monday, starting December 1, with the first Wednesday operation taking place on December the 6th.
Minister Grant said that the addition of the American Airlines flight, and I quote, complements the new Delta Airlines non-stop weekly service from JFK, John F. Kennedy, and an additional service from Atlanta, as well as the recently added United Airlines stop out of Newark, New Jersey, end of quote. Technology integration in schools is very critical to the learning environment, and because of this, a large component of the education sector plan is geared towards it, said Director of Education Management Information Systems, EMIS, Christopher Herbert.
Technology integration is a critical component, a very large component of the education sector plan, and it's actually seen as a cross-cutting theme. Technology in and of itself will not solve anything. The mindset that goes along with instructions around technology is what we are very interested in seeing being developed in our nation's youth. The TVET skills that are being incorporated in the sector plan more look towards 21st century skills, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, communication skills. That skill set has been deemed as, I would say, critically important in creating a new sense of identity. We are very interested in well-rounded students. We're interested in students that are able to not only find work in existing traditional workspaces here in St. Kitts, but we're also looking at innovators. We're looking at persons who see the value in creating their own content, in creating content that's culturally relevant to us here in St. Kitts, in the region. We also want to see students that are able to fit in well, that are clearly global citizens.
The director of EMIS said that it is the view that the teaching of technology, as well as its integration in classrooms, will create that set of adjustments, focused mindset, and perspectives that are extremely valuable to the 21st century citizens. The official contract signing ceremony between the St. Christopher A. Seaports Authority, SKNIS, and the Canadian Commercial Corporation, CCC, for the construction of the second cruise pier at Port Sante in St. Kitts took place on November 22nd at the Ocean Terrace Inn. The Honorable Ian Pattis Library, the Minister of Public Infrastructure, marked the occasion as one of vision, highlighting that the project has been in the works for a number of years and deemed it a necessary expenditure for the growth of the tourism industry in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
It has been a long process, but a necessary one to ensure accountability, transparency, and prudent decision making, all for the benefit of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. This is a testament of the commitment of the Canadian government to this project with your presence, and the improvement which you mentioned of our government-to-government relationships, which you hope will bear many more fruits in the future.
The initial plans for the second cruise pier project, which began back in 2012, laid the roadmap for the current project, which is set to start by the end of the first quarter of 2018. The construction of the pier is expected to be completed within 18 months in time for the 2019 cruise season. Wednesday's November 22nd edition of Working for You featured officials from the St. Kitts Nevis National Council on Drug Prevention Secretariat, where they provided information on the Secretariat, including its function and policies. Measures that are being taken by the Secretariat in collaboration with other stakeholders in drug prevention and treatment were also discussed, among other pertinent matters. An extremely important topic that was discussed was the proactive approach the Council is taking with regards to drug abuse prevention in schools.
So the Drug Council is working very closely with the Ministry of Education to ensure that these prevention programs are established, implemented, and working within the schools. And not only there, we want to evaluate and monitor and see how we can improve those programs as well. Sure. So that is one of the areas we are currently looking at. Outside of the school setting as well, we have worked with the New Horizon Rehabilitation Center. We have already worked with them to develop a drug prevention /intervention/treatment service there, and from the last follow-up they hope to implement that next year. So those are some mechanisms that we're using in order to reach and educate some persons.
The Republic of China Taiwan has once again showed its generosity to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis by providing scholarships to 170 primary and secondary students and student teachers at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College to the tune of US $100,000.
The scholarships that we are receiving today do not represent the full gamut of the assistance, especially in the field of education, that Taiwan offers to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. A few months ago, we were at OTI, where we saw quite a number of young persons being awarded scholarships to go off to pursue studies in Taiwan.
His Excellency George Galway Chiu, Resident Ambassador of the Republic of China Taiwan to St. Kitts and Nevis, said that as a long-time diplomatic ally of St. Kitts and Nevis, his country's embassy would continue to collaborate with the Ministry of Education in shaping fair and equitable access for youth and improving the quality of education assistance in St. Kitts and Nevis.
This scholarship program is one of the good examples for this education cooperation, where we come to here to recognize the highly potential of the young generation. There is no investment in the youth is too late, and none is insignificant. This cooperative program is not only providing scholarship for students, but also supporting the professional development for teachers.
During the recent scholarship handing over ceremony, the government also received 24 laptops to be utilized in schools throughout the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. The Ministers' Youth Forum and inaugural Ministers' Youth Luncheon, which was an event on the calendar of activities for the Department of Youth Empowerment's Youth Month 2017, paved the way for frank and respectful dialogue on a wide range of issues pertinent to youth development in St. Kitts and Nevis. Acting Director in the Department of Youth Empowerment, Pierre Liebert, said that the event was very important and it provided an avenue for all in attendance to hear from policymakers and government officials on what is expected in charting the way forward for youth development, among other things.
But it's an opportunity for all of you, all of us, to converse, to dialogue openly, frankly, respectfully, as to how we see this part going forward. What can be done, what is necessary, how we could all work together to ensure that every young person in St. Kitts and Nevis has equitable opportunity to ensure that their future is as bright as we all anticipate and expect for it to be.
Minister with responsibility for youth, the Honorable Sean Richards, urged young persons to use the forum to their benefit, as he cannot sit in an office and determine all of the issues affecting young persons and figure out some of the programs that they would like to see implemented to benefit the youth of St. Kitts and Nevis. Minister Richards explained that to date, the programs implemented by the Department of Youth Empowerment are reflective of the needs of the Federation's young people, and that other programs are being developed to advance the cause of young people in St. Kitts and Nevis. The remaining activities to further celebrate Youth Month 2017, which is observed under the theme Empowering Our Youth to Soar for Much More, include the High School Choir Fest on November 26th, Youth Parliament on November 29th, and the Youth Service Reception on November 30th. A reception to celebrate the entry into force of the bilateral agreement on the visa waiver requirements for nationals of St. Kitts and Nevis to travel to the Russian Federation was recently hosted at the Mill Cafe and Restaurant in Frigate Bay. This came as a result of the historic signed visa waiver agreement, which took place in New York on September 21st. The Honorable Mark Brantley, Minister of Foreign Affairs, signed the agreement with the Russian Federation's Foreign Minister, His Excellency Sergei Lavrov, an agreement that allows citizens of both St. Kitts and Nevis and the Russian Federation to travel for up to 90 days to each other's countries without the need for a visa. Minister Brantley said that the government's philosophy has always been one to promote greater people-to-people contact, as well as to expand the Federation's diplomatic footprint. He noted that persons need to understand that the world is made up of a lot more countries that are represented by the United Nations, other than the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and Canada. Hence, it is extremely important to develop meaningful relationships with as many countries as possible.
It behooves us as a small country to develop friendships with those that share our ideals and friendships with those that we think can advance the interests of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And that's what we've been trying to do. And in the case of the Russian Federation, I think we've done so quite successfully. So I feel very proud that I have happened to be in this position as Foreign Minister for St. Kitts and Nevis at this very historic time in our country, when we celebrate our ability to move freely between Russia and St. Kitts and Nevis. So the Russian Federation, the Federation of St. Christopher Nevis, we can now enjoy that. What that does, it really allows our people to engage with each other. So we are all about developing our people-to-people contacts, because we feel that ultimately is the best diplomacy.
Ambassador of the Russian Federation to St. Kitts and Nevis, His Excellency Vladimir Vinokurov, said that he is delighted that such an agreement is now in place and hope that it will promote meaningful and productive exchanges between all stakeholders. He echoed his commitment to continue working on other bilateral documents as a way to further strengthen the legal basis of the relationships between the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and the Russian Federation. Thanks for viewing SKNIS Weekend Review. I am Sharima Matthew. See you next week as we continue to update you, the general public, on what's happening in and around the Federation.